The following program is a presentation of the Ohio School Boards Association.
Board presidents play several critical roles on a Board of Education. One of those roles is to lead school board meetings. Using parliamentary procedure, the board president guides the board through its agenda, managing motions and amendments from introduction through adoption. Your favorite OSBA attorneys, Sara Clark and Jenny Hardin, are here to talk about the questions they get from school board presidents about leading the meeting. Jenny and Sara, thanks for coming on the Legal Ledger Sidebar.
Of course. Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
So, parliamentary procedure. Jenny, what is it all about?
That's a great question, Scott, and thanks for asking. And because that's such a mouthful, we can just call it Parley Pro.
That's probably a little bit easier, but hopefully I may have a problem with Parley Pro too, so
That's cute.
I'll try. It is cute.
We'll walk you through it. Don't worry about it. Parley Pro is a series of rules for the operation of meetings. It's not mandated by Ohio law, but most boards in Ohio have adopted some form of Parley Pro. The most common one is Robert's Rules, so that's essentially what we're going to be talking about today.
So Sara, if Parley Pro isn't required, what's the advantage of using it?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So it does essentially three things for your meetings. Number one, it's going to maintain the decorum at the meeting. Number two, it's going to help the board determine the will of the majority, and it's going to protect the rights of the minority on your board. And then three, it facilitates the orderly conduct of the business of the meeting.
And what are some of the key features of it?
As Sara said, to preserve the orderly conduct of business, Parley Pro establishes how motions are introduced and handled when they're in front of the body. Unless they have a conflict of interest, every member of a school board can make motions and second motions and vote on matters that are before the board.
And that's actually an important point, because actually under Robert's Rules, the board chair doesn't have a right to vote unless their vote is necessary to break a tie. But for school districts, under Ohio law, the board president has the same rights as anybody else to participate. They can make a motion, they can vote, and those rights are the same as any other member on the board.
So Robert's Rules doesn't always control the board's activity then?
Yeah, that's correct. So there are going to be some times when the school board has to deviate from Robert's Rules because of requirements in Ohio law. We just talked about one. Another one might be Robert's Rules allows members to vote by ballot, but that's actually going to be a problem under the Open Meetings Act for Ohio school districts. So they're going to have to choose to comply with the Open Meetings Act instead of that right that they have under Roberts.
So Jenny, you mentioned that motions were the way things happen in meetings. Are there different kinds of motions?
Yeah, there are 5 different kinds. There are main motions, subsidiary motions, privileged motions, incidental motions, and of course there has to be a super long name, motions that bring a question again before the board.
And maybe add a little bit more detail for our viewers about each of those motions.
Sure. We're going to talk about the 2 that are most commonly used, which are main motions and subsidiary motions. So a main motion is just what it sounds like. That's where a board member brings a matter before the board for consideration. Main motions are handled one at a time. You can only have one main motion in front of the board at a time.
And then subsidiary motions do something to that main motion. So the most common ones that we see at the local school board level are the motion to amend and the motion to postpone or the motion to refer it to a committee.
Yeah, and if subsidiary motions are before the board affecting the main motion, they're handled in reverse order. So think of it as steps. You go up the steps and then you come back down the steps in the same order. In other words, if there's a main motion and a subsidiary motion to amend the main motion, the board will vote first on the subsidiary motion and then on the main motion.
Whether it was amended or not.
Right, exactly. And that's where the board president's role is so critical, because the board president has to keep track of exactly what's going on. They have to make sure that the board knows what it's voting on. So if the main motion's amended, they need to restate the main motion with the amendment. And in a lot of cases, the board superintendent or treasurer can help keep track of motions as they're moving along.
So Sara, I know anytime we talk about board meetings, how board meetings are run, executive sessions, I know you guys get a lot of questions. Do you get a lot of questions on Parley Pro?
We do. In addition to sort of the questions we get about how do you amend an agenda, how do you amend a motion, we also get a lot of questions about how to bring items back before the board, or how do you correct things that have already taken place. So, how do you revisit a decision that the board has already made?
And there are two options there, and which one you're using depends on when the matter was decided. So if a prevailing member, a member who is on the prevailing side of a motion that's already been passed in the same meeting decides that he or she wants to bring it back before the board, they would propose a motion to reconsider. Motions to reconsider require a second. They're debatable but not amendable, and they require a majority vote to pass.
So what happens when a board wants to revisit a decision it made at a past meeting?
Yeah, so that is called a motion to rescind, and it's not always going to be possible. So there are times where you can't undo a decision that the board has made, right? So there would be a situation where the rights have already vested in the decision, you've already started to perform work, or somebody else has already started to perform work, and so you can't undo that decision. But assuming that it's appropriate, the motion to rescind can be brought by any member of the board. It does require a second, and it's both debatable and amendable.
Yeah, and if it's brought before the board with no notice, it takes a 2/3 vote to pass. If it's brought before the board with notice ahead of time, like it's on the agenda, for example, it takes a majority vote to pass the motion to rescind.
Well, thank you for walking us through all of this. Can board members get more information if they need it?
Of course, Scott.
I know you guys.
Of course they can. So we have a ton of resources on Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure. I think a couple that I would recommend. We have a fact sheet on our legal resources by topic page that talks about the different motions, what's required for those. I think that is a great thing to print off and have with you at the board meeting. And then we also have a number of books that are going to be sold at the bookstore on parliamentary procedure. And those are great as you prepare for a meeting.
Yeah.
If you know there's going to be a matter that's sort of controversial or a hot topic, it's great to look through those in advance of the meeting and kind of know, have your ducks in order to know what your options are and sort of how those different options might play out.
Yeah, and those books are going to be available at the upcoming Capitol Conference,
That's
right?
correct, yes,
Yeah.
in the bookstore.
Yeah, and speaking of Capitol Conference, I'll be doing a breakout session Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. on Robert's Rules, and we'll be talking about these topics.
Many more, I'm
And
sure.
many more. So I hope to see a lot of people who are viewing this Legal Ledger Sidebar there.
So that's Monday at 4.
Monday at 4.
I'm sure that will be a packed session.
I hope so.
So Sarah and Jenny, thanks for joining us, and thank you for joining us here on the Legal Ledger Sidebar. We'll see you on the next episode.